I'm here at the launch party for VFC's newest rifle, which is a fairly interesting item, which is also something which is going to show a bit of the future of the VFC AR line in general. This is the KS1, sorry about that. KS1 from KAC, which the UK has adopted as the L403A1, which is going to be used by some of their elite units, apparently the Ranger Regiment and also the Royal Marine Commandos. And because of that, of course, you have, let's see if you can get a picture of this here, have a little Fairbairn Sykes, I believe is the term, knife symbol showing this is a gun for the commando units. It is the new VFC EVO, probably you'll say, system, which is of course an update to the existing VFC V3 system. Internally, is going to be the same on the lower, all the FCG and stuff is the same. Of course, this KS1 is a KAC model with fully ambidextrous controls, including on both sides, you have your bolt lock back and bolt release there, and then also ambidextrous mag release as well. So the lower is different, but then internally the FCG and stuff is the same as the previous VFC V3 spec. However, the bolt and hop-up are going to be different here. The bolt is a newly updated patented design from VFC, which addresses one of the main concerns a lot of people have always had about VFCs, which is basically to take the nozzle out and, for example, add an MPAS, which a lot of people want to do for obvious reasons. It was a bit of a pain in the butt. You had to take out these screws, and these were a non-standard size. This new model has a system which kind of mimics more of the real gun VCG parts and allows you to take this out, and this is kind of the main mechanism that locks in your nozzle there. You also have to take off the rear part there for, what's it called, the nozzle return spring, see if you can get a thing of it. But the E-clip that was previously used is now much, much larger, and I haven't taken it apart myself, but I'm told it is much easier to take apart. So by taking off this for the nozzle return spring, and taking out this part, you can pop the nozzle right out and put in a new one with an MPAS or to fix a broken one or whatever have you. So a great little small iterative change for this, and it looks pretty good. This does move around a bit when you're moving around here, but this should be locked into a channel once it's in the gun. And they say they fired it and tested a lot, and no problem so far. We'll see how that happens once it comes out in the market and you have hundreds or thousands of people shooting a lot of it. The other kind of main difference in this system is the hop-up here. So the hop-up unit is now something which can be taken out without touching the handguard and can be adjusted from the rear. So this is the hop-up unit here, and inner barrel assembly. And you can see here, you can see there, you can hardly see the light, but there's a little grub screw there. So you can use a normal 2mm hex wrench if you want to, or you can also go and use a special tool which will allow you to adjust it from within the gun. Let's see here. Hopefully you can, yeah. So it is stepped. You can hear that. So it should retain a bunch. It moves pretty easily. Slightly afraid that perhaps there could be some adjustment when shooting potentially. We're gonna see how that plays out. But I have a relative amount of faith in their ability to either one, get this right, or at worst, have this be a good platform, and if you need to dial it in with some aftermarket, that's what you do. Looking quite good. I will say the adjustment range doesn't look huge, but it's presumably adequate. It may also be more, Taiwanese guns in general, of course, especially GBBs, tend to be more oriented towards heavier BBs. There's a slight chance perhaps, let's see here actually. I was gonna say that it might overhop on light BBs, but yeah, it looks like just at the lower end, it looks like truly just about zero hop. So I think at worst you'll have to swap out a rubber to a more aggressive, one with a more aggressive nub. Now that is held in by, as you can see here, or hopefully you can see here, there's two grub screws. And that's essentially all that's holding in. Another small potential weak point, but because ultimately there's no real force working on this, it's held inside the inner, it's held inside the outer barrel. You have your bolt working against it here, or the nozzle hitting against it, but that shouldn't be much. So these grub screws should be sufficient. We'll see if there's any issues around that. They are very small grub screws, and that's apparently the primary mechanism for holding it in. At worst, I think something will be done about that. So being slightly not, I'm trying to be fair and somewhat critical here. But and then next off is the another big change of this model, of course, is the URX6, which is changed from the older SR16 rather. stoner rifles that VFC made, which were held in by grub screws. This is not held in by grub screws, this is held in by proper stuff. So you need some chunky stuff to take off the handguard apparently. You need proper tools to do it. So it should be much more secure. Occasionally with the old version, the old SR16, in the V2 and V3 VFC AR system, they did occasionally have some loosening of the handguard because it's held in by the grub screw. You also have the alignment nub there, which is the same as on the real one, which means that you're never going to have problems with having this aligned. But also, again, because of the hop-up and inner barrel system being new, you should never have to take this off unless you want to put on a new one. So generally speaking, even for maintenance and stuff, you really shouldn't need to do much. Inside, there is a new style one-piece outer barrel. This is machined aluminum, not steel, unfortunately. I'm sure the aftermarket will come up with some steel. It is a copy of the Ninth Armament dimpled one here, which is something they do apparently to give you a heavy profile barrel and the better kind of ballistic abilities of a heavy profile barrel, but also keep it as light as possible. And apparently, instead of fluting, the dimples give it better ballistic, what's it called? Resistance to heat change and point of impact change when firing a lot. For the real one, for airsoft, it doesn't matter so much, but it would mean that in steel, this would be very expensive to machine for mass production. So there will probably be some aftermarket steel versions, but expect them to be a little bit on the pricey side, probably, just because this takes a lot more machining than you would normally have for an outer barrel. But it looks all very nice. Fully machined outer barrel is very nice. And then, of course, you have this nice armament, which is a replica. It is hollow inside. Oh, you can't really see it anyway. It's hollow inside. Probably too dark to see. But it is a replica, including the nice armament ratchet system of their QD. Let's see if this goes in properly. This can be a little bit. Yeah. You get that screechy noise, just like the real one. And it ratchets down. Unfortunately, you do eventually get to the point where you're unscrewing the 14 millimeter, and this does not out of the box have a grub screw to hold it in. So you're preferably going to, that's probably what the real one sounds like, by the way. So that is a good thing in a way. And it might be stuck. Yeah, there we go, boom. You're gonna have to really torque this down probably, otherwise you're going to eventually start having problems with it, maybe. But you shouldn't need to torque things down too much for it to work right. And it does, timing-wise, it does align. You have the mark here sitting at the top, which I think where it should be. At worst, you could probably shim that slightly and make that a little bit tighter if you absolutely have to. But it looks very nice. You can also take this shroud off. So the actual thing is a QD suppressor, and then this is a shroud for it. For the real gun, this is basically because they wanted something with some flash and suppression and a bit of sound suppression, but more than sound suppression was the flash, and then apparently the thermal signature was their primary concern for the real one. So you have this shroud on it, which can be taken off apparently, but you have to take it out via this clip here. Take it off via this clip, which I'm not going to do right now. So we're going to leave that as is. I will say, it's all looking quite nice though. Yeah, the threading of the muzzle device, and then also the threading of this, is a little bit of a pain to deal with. So you're not going to want to take this off and on too much probably. Also need to see ultimately, I don't know off the top of my head how easy it is to access the inside of this and whether or not you can put a tracer or whatnot for the people who like that inside there. But overall, this is seeming like a good execution. And then we'll need to see how it is when it gets in the hands of thousands of people. But I think it's going to be very popular. And very importantly, the changes that I mentioned of the bolt, the hop there, also the hop adjustment device, which by the way, let me show you. While we're at it, let's look at it. What it looks like when you do it like this. Boom, boom, boom. You can put it in there, little finicky. You have to know what you're doing. Ah, yeah, I like that. Little finicky to get it in there, I think. But once it's in, there you go. And then you can adjust the hop like that. But this is optional. You can also, of course, whoa. There you go, come on. Just drop it out through the magazine. Ooh. Yeah, you're gonna have to watch out for this getting stuck inside, I think. There you go. And then if you need to, you can also just pop it out. Pop it out, boom, come on, oh yeah. Pop it out, and then you can adjust it via a 2 millimeter hex wrench right into there. So, looking very good. Should be a good execution of a new evolution of the AR line, and then expect these changes to kind of filter down all through the line, and we'll see exactly how that works with others, or if there's any additional changes that come along. Stuff like steel barrels and other models that have less machining. We'll see what happens. Pretty exciting overall.